Veteran CanMNT defender Doneil Henry is finally back, and he has found a new club, with Doneil Henry set to head back up north to join the Canadian Premier League this time around. This is a very exciting move for Halifax Wanderers, the CPL side who have managed to land the extremely sought-after Canadian defender. And this is a massive move for HFX, who are in a huge playoff push at the moment, and this could just elevate them to make the playoffs and maybe make that next step. But it won't just elevate the club as a whole, this transfer will elevate the entire league, as this could become the biggest signing in league history for the Canadian Premier League, albeit a short and very short history for the Canadian Premier League, but this signing might just be the biggest yet. And this signing could easily elevate Halifax Wanderers to win the Canadian Premier League this season. With HFX manager Patrice Geiser setting up Halifax Wanderers this season in a 4-4-1-1 system, expect Doneil Henry to of course walk straight into this side as the number one choice centre back. And I truly expect Doneil Henry to be paired along with the number one centre back before him in the roster, in my opinion, in Doneil Henry. Doneil Henry has been truly brilliant this season for HFX, and as a young Canadian, I think he's been fantastic to watch, and I think he's had a very good year, a very consistent year, and a player who I think will suit alongside Doneil Henry very well. But either three of the center backs he would get paired up with for Doneil Henry would be a great fit, as they have three extremely young Canadian center backs who are very promising, whether it's Doneil Henry or the other two in Cale Lowry or Christian Campagna in just last year, who had a trial stint in the Bundesliga second division. All three of them have been very good, and I'd love to see him paired up with the likes of Doneil Henry or even Christian Campagna, and I think all three of these Canadian center backs have bright futures, and playing along with one of the best Canadian center backs to really come through and to be a staple of our national team will be a huge boost to these young Canadian center backs, and having a player like Doneil Henry with his leadership, being able to grow the talented young Canadian center back pool already at HFX is only going to be massive for the club and the Canadian national team in the future. But Doneil Henry, when fit and healthy, brings an exciting skill set as a center back, as Doneil Henry has a very good ability to read the game as a central defender, as Henry consistently finds himself in perfect positions on the pitch, whether that is to make interceptions, clearances, defensively, or even get his body in front to block shots. And looking back at arguably Doneil Henry's most notable and best season, in my opinion, in recent years, has to be back in 2021, when we saw Doneil Henry with Suwon Samsung Blue Wings in South Korea. This is only going back a couple of years ago, as Henry managed to appear in 21 matches and earned himself 16 starts, his most consistent and by far his best season recently. But that year saw Henry tally 37 interceptions, which truly shows his reading of a football match. Across those matches, having 2.05 interceptions per 90 minutes, putting himself among the top 94 center backs, 94 percentile among center backs in the league. But not only that, Doneil Henry finished the season on 89 clearances, which is absolutely exceptional for only managing 21 matches and starting 16 of them, which saw him average 4.93 clearances per the 90, putting him among the 97th percentile among all the center backs in the division. But that season is of course a great sample size of a decent amount of matches, but also being able to see what he can bring and able to read a match to that ability consistently week in and week out is a huge bonus for Doneil Henry. Especially in a young league like the Canadian Premier League, being able to read a match is of course a huge factor as a defender, especially when you don't have an abundance of pace like Doneil Henry does lack. But Doneil Henry doesn't just bring a high and very good ability of defensive positioning. Henry is also a very exciting threat in the air, as he has a huge aerial presence, whether that is in the opposing box, attacking set pieces, whether that be corners or free kicks, or defensively, clearing the ball out of his own penalty area. Henry is always a consistent threat no matter which penalty area you may find him in. But taking a bit of a look back at that season in 2021 with Suwon Samsung Blue Wings, Doneil Henry's aerial duels won in 2021 managed to be 57 aerial duels in only 21 matches, which is of course exceptional. Once again, it shows what he can bring to HFX, which was an average of 3.16 aerial duels won per 90 minutes, which saw Henry land himself in the 92nd percentile among center backs in the division, which of course Doneil Henry will be able to translate that to the CPL, which will give HFX a huge boost in the air, making them have another threat towards a massive playoff push in the Canadian Premier League. But Doneil Henry's ability transcends the football pitch, as his ability is extremely high as a leader and a winner, as he brings a huge winning experience and even leadership ability. With HFX Wanderers bringing in Doneil Henry to march towards an important playoff push, Henry brings an extremely high level of winning experience. As all Canadians and CanMNT supporters know, Henry was a huge and extreme integral part of that John Herdman Canadian side that marched towards their first ever World Cup since 1986, as Henry put in some key appearances and some key performances along Canada's march towards Qatar. But it wasn't only that, it's his impact in the dressing room, as Henry was of course key towards the brotherhood and being able to help behind the scenes with the squad, which is of course why John Herdman still brought him to the Qatar World Cup even though he was injured, bringing him a part of the coaching staff, showing how important he is to not just the team on the pitch, but as well in the backroom staff. But this is going to be massive. That'll transform and transcend the pitch for HFX and truly be able to bring this to the other players, and it will demand a winning mentality, not just from the players on the pitch, but the whole squad, the whole locker room, the coaching staff, and even the trainers and supporters. But of course, Doneil Henry doesn't just bring that winning experience, he also brings an abundance of just general experience at playing at the top level, and even with some amazing players. Whether it was in England when he was a younger footballer, playing in the Premier League with West Ham United not getting any performances, but also playing with Blackburn, which that time was also cut very short due to his time with injuries that has always hindered his footballing career and has really held him back from hitting his true potential and going to where he really should have hit. But Henry has still been a fantastic center back, playing at the top level. Even teams in the MLS, playing with arguably the best teams in the MLS with some of the most history. LAFC, Toronto FC, and even Vancouver Whitecaps, and just recently leaving Minnesota United. Henry's played with some fantastic teams, some great players, and some amazing clubs. But joining HFX will bring that level and will elevate the squad as a whole, and Doneil Henry's career is huge, and what it'll bring to HFX is going to be massive. These are young center backs, young Canadians playing for Halifax Wanderers, who have all known who Doneil Henry is in their entire footballing career, and looking up to a player like Henry, who has been constantly a staple of the Canadian men's national team, will be huge for this squad and the players on this Halifax Wanderers team. But Doneil Henry is still a very good center back and an amazing player, and technically, in terms of his position, is still extremely young, only the age of 30 and arguably just exiting his prime. And if he can stay healthy, fit, and consistently playing football, could arguably earn himself a massive transfer off a huge season with Halifax Wanderers and even a deep playoff push. And if he can get a transfer that is anywhere close to Dominic Zator's move to Corona Kielce, which he made from the Canadian Premier League, Doneil Henry could possibly find himself back in CanMNT contention. Guys, let me know what you guys think down below about Doneil Henry back in football, joining Halifax Wanderers, and how he might fit into the league. And is he truly the biggest signing in the Canadian Premier League history? And have I missed out on someone that might be bigger than Henry? And can he make it back into CanMNT contention? Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Drop a like, hit the sub button, and let me know what you guys think of the more edited, big picture transfer videos and content in a whole. And of course, my new YouTube shorts. I'll see you guys for the next one, guys. Peace.